Hi, I'm Larry Becker, and this is a segment of amateur turkey hunting technical tips. Today's segment is on conditioning and maintenance of pot calls. Pot calls consist of a pot and a striker. They are friction calls, and the way they make the sound is by drawing the striker across the surface of the pot. Now, before I get started, I'd like to do one small disclaimer. Over the years, I've been fortunate enough to make friends with a few world-class turkey call makers. And the tips I'm about to give you, I have learned from them and practiced successfully over a number of years. However, if your call maker has suggested different maintenance and conditioning tips that come with your call, please go by them rather than what I'm about to tell you. It's most important that you don't ruin your call in the process. First of all, I'd like to say that it's important that you never touch the surface of your call or the tip of your striker. Your fingers contain oil and possibly dirt. When you transfer that by touching the surface of the call, if you transfer that to the call, that's going to detract from the performance of that call. So try to avoid that at all costs. However, with the handling we have in the field and so on, you will eventually inadvertently touch that call in some places. But there's an easy solution both at home and in the field, and that's by carrying with you some of these alcohol pads. They come sealed. You can buy them at any pharmacy. They come sealed in this little pouch. All you got to do is tear it open, pull your alcohol pad out, and apply that to the surface of your call. This will evaporate fairly quickly because it is alcohol. It'll also clean though very, very thoroughly and get any oils off it. So don't be afraid to really rub it in good. And look at your pad. If the pad comes up dirty, you may want to turn it over and use another pad, or use another pad to get that clean. Same way with the tip of your striker. Use the pad, rub it around here, and that'll clean that up as well. From the standpoint of maintenance, always wipe and maintenance and conditioning, always wipe the surface of the call with alcohol before you start to condition it. That way you're assured that you've got any oil and dirt off, and you're not going to be driving that into the surface by whatever method you're using to condition it. When you are conditioning your call, you should go in a straight back and forth motion. Okay? Do not go in circles. Do not go crisscross, this way and then up and down. What you're trying to do is create somewhat of a grain. And when you create that little bit of a grain, when you use your striker, you go across that grain, and that gives you the best friction and the best possible sounds that you can create with this call. So keep that in mind. Always go in the same direction, and do not go in circles. And a little tip, when you're in the field, quite frankly, you shouldn't be looking at your pot call. You should be looking out in the field around to see if any turkeys are coming in silently or answering your call. And sometimes you're under low light conditions. So then it becomes a question of, well, how do I know that I'm going against that grain? Well, one little tip is you could put a piece of tape on there like this, just a piece of masking tape that's easily removed when you're done hunting or storing your calls till the next season. You can feel that in the dark, obviously. It's not very sharp or anything like that, so you can feel it in the dark, and that way you know how best to hold your call. Now, I'm going to start talking about conditioning. With a slate call, I usually use one of these scrubby pads. They're easy to buy. Most grocery stores sell them. They come in packs like this. They're not very expensive. They're a common kitchen utensil for cleaning pots and pans, so they're very easy to buy. I usually cut them into pads about this size, so it's easy for me to carry. Plus, it's easier to use rather than one of those big ones when you're conditioning your call. The way I condition a slate call is I go back and forth like this. And you don't have to do very much. You're not trying to remove much of that surface. You're just trying to rough it up a little bit. And because what happens over time is both the surface of your caul and the tip of your striker, they'll get kind of smooth, or they'll get too many scratches and stuff in. So you want to kind of remove that and straighten it out. You may have a little bit of residual slate dust when you do that. Again, just apply your alcohol pad, clean that off, and you're ready to go. The next caul I'd like to go over is a glass caul. Now the glass caul glass is obviously harder and smoother than the slate. So there's a couple methods you can use here. One is for initially doing it, you may want to use a 220 grit sandpaper, nothing too heavy. Again, you're not trying to remove much of the surface. All you're trying to do is get that little bit of imperfections or whatever might be in there off, and get just enough rough grain so that your striker will work good. So many people use like a 220 grit sandpaper. Some people will use just a scrubby pad, although that doesn't normally get you started. I've got a little device that has some diamond grit paper on it, so I use that and just put it across like that. And then when I'm done, I usually then take my scrubby pad and go over that again. And then my glass caul is in real good shape to make some good sounds when you're using it. The next caul I'd like to go over is plain aluminum. Plain aluminum is the same kind of deal. It's a smooth, harder surface. Again, you want to rough that up initially with some sandpaper. This one I have conditioned with some sandpaper. So now when I'm in the field or after I get done hunting for the day, I'll just use a scrubby pad on it. And that seems to work out well. I don't need to do anything else with that caul once I initially get it roughened up. But coming from the manufacturer, a lot of times they're not roughened up. So you need to do some initial conditioning on that. The next caul I've got is anodized aluminum. Now this is aluminum, but it's anodized. And you don't want to use any abrasives whatsoever on anodized aluminum. Just use your alcohol pad. If you use an abrasive, you're going to remove that anodized layer and you're going to be down to bare aluminum, and effectively you've ruined your caul. So please be careful about that. Next caul is the ceramic caul. Ceramic cauls, I don't have a lot of experience with them, so I would suggest that you contact your manufacturer or caul maker and ask them how best to keep that conditioned. Right now, because I don't use this a lot, I'm just using my aluminum or my alcohol pad to clean it off. If I see something that isn't quite right, I might use a scrubby pad again, clean it off with a scrubby pad, and then the alcohol wipe. These are pretty porous, so I would use several alcohol wipes to make sure you got it good and clean, and you should be in good shape. Last but not least is how to maintain your strikers. Now, there are a couple different kinds of strikers. A lot of them are wood, and some have like a ceramic tip, okay? Now, on a wood striker, what you'll see quite often is they'll start to get kind of shiny and smooth from rubbing them all the time. So clean it off with the alcohol pad again, and then you may want to take your scrubby and just twist it on the scrubby to get that cleaned up. In some cases, you may want to consider taking a very dull knife, and don't put the knife forward, but draw the knife backwards across the tip of that, and that will raise the grain a little bit. Don't shave any wood off. That's the last thing you want to do, because then you're going to probably ruin that striker if you do. You want to maintain the same shape. That's why when I use the scrubby pad, I sort of put it in here, made a hollow in my hand, so it's still keeping that oval shape. Next, you may have a ceramic tip on the striker. And if you have a ceramic tip on there, You don't want to use anything too aggressive either. Again, use the alcohol pad. Take the scrubby, excuse me, scrubby, and do this. Well, that's all for today. I hope you've learned a little bit and have an enjoyable, safe hunt. Bye.